All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you consume the show. Greatly appreciate you. Big shout out to both our sponsors, Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, near Highmark Stadium, and Imperial Pizza with two locations. One on Main Street near Canisius College, the other one in the heart of South Buffalo, 1035 Aber Road. Make sure you guys get out there and support both of those fine establishments. They do a lot to help support this show. Plus, they are two of the very best. All right, speaking of, man, we've hit our midweek episode already. This week is just flying real quick, man. And by the time most of you are listening to this, September's over, man. We'll be in October 1st already here. Matt Warren from SB Nation. What's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
Doing good, yeah. I mean, having like the extra couple days between the Thursday night game and the Sunday game felt like you could breathe a little, and then now it feels like it's like very condensed. I understand what you're saying. When
you get to October, which most people listening to this on Wednesday, we will be in October. Does that feel like the official TU start of fall? Because I know technically it's been fall now for a week. It certainly hasn't felt like that. And that's not a complaint. That's awesome. The weather here in Western New York has just continued to be awesome. These first two Bills, or I should say at least these last two Bills home games, all three of them for that matter, have just the weather's been literally perfect. It's perfect out today as we're recording this on a Tuesday morning. I do, need to say that every week just in case something goes down. But does this feel like now that we're in October, like the official start to fall to you?
Last night was the first night I noticed folks had cleared the leaves off their lawn and put them like next to the curb. And so, yeah, it feels like that now. Even though it's like you said, been pristine out, the weather's been great. It sort of feels like the tail end of summer still, but like the leaves have started to fall. So like it kind of makes sense.
Let me ask you a question because I can't remember this, to be honest with you. But in 2006 in Buffalo, we had the October storm. Did you guys get that out near Batavia? Did you get it to like anything like Buffalo? Because I was like, I tell you, October 2006, but that was early. That was one of the most eerie feelings I can remember having ever living in Buffalo. Just the sound of trees cracking and falling down because the leaves obviously were still on. And it was way too heavy for the branches in the trees, be able to withstand that. But did that hit you out near Batavia too? I don't remember.
Yeah, I've got a story. It was my first year teaching. And so I was teaching in Webster. So that's in Rochester. Mm-hmm. And we got like a foot of ice. I didn't want to take my first day off because of snow and ice and all this other stuff, like in my first year teaching. So I shoveled the driveway. It was the first day I didn't wear a tie to work because like I had been like up for like an hour shoveling the driveway and all this other stuff, down trees, all this other stuff. But as soon as I got to Leroy, it was green grass the entire rest of the way. So we got hit with it in Batavia, and like really that was it. Like the lake effect band stretched until Batavia and then just stopped.
Wow. That'll always be one of my, just like I said, wildest memories of October. My sister-in-law was like supposed to get married. They ultimately did get married, but it was like 2 weeks or so after that. But that was all a disaster. So anyway, all right. So as usual, what we've been doing all season, and I really like this, is we've been going, and we will today as well. We're going to go through the Buffalo Bills positionally, kind of not even so much just talk about the game itself, but kind of analyze where they're at positionally. We'll talk about each spot, and then ultimately Matt will assign a grade for him. I think it's a good way to really stay connected to the entire team to do it positionally. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll turn our attention, at least briefly, to the Bills' next opponent, which I think is suddenly a little more of a juicier matchup for the Bills, especially the way the Patriots won last Sunday. The New England Patriots coming to Highmark Stadium Sunday Night Football. That's going to be a raucous environment as well. We'll get to a couple NFL things near the tail end too, of course, time permitting, as always. So that's what we'll be talking about on the show today. I do want to say real quick, Matt, I know you're not really an autograph type person. I'm not either. Or am I misspeaking for you? Are you a go to an event, pay money, stand in line, and get an autograph type guy?
No, I've never done that. No.
Nah, I didn't think he did, and neither do I. But a lot of people do. It's fun for a lot of people, and I'm
Yeah.
totally with that. I do want to let people know TSC Buffalo Friday and Saturday, the Buffalo Big Show 2. It's going to be at Wings, which is basically around the corner from the stadium. Autograph opportunities up the butt if you are a Bills fan of present and former legends on this team. You got to get tickets for the autograph. Admission to the event, though, is free. They got a bar, they got food, merch tables all over. It's really cool. I was there last year. I'll be there again this year. This lineup on Friday, I mean, if you are an autograph guy and you wanted to spend some money and get some autographs, it is loaded on Friday night. Greg Rizzo, Keon Coleman, James Cook, Terrell Bernard, Tyrell Shavers, Khalil Shakir, and Jim Kelly all on Friday. Saturday, Andre Reed, Fred Jackson, and Thurman Thomas will be there. And like I said, beyond the player autographs, there's lots of other things going on. This is really cool. I was here last year. Admission is free. Sal Compaccio will be doing a live sales house there on Saturday. So go hit up tscbuffalo.com for more information. All right, let's get into this week 4 positional grades. And I feel like some of these maybe a little bit more tougher to grade. Maybe I'm wrong, and we'll find out over the course of the next 45 minutes or so. But some of these were a little tougher for me to kind of evaluate than the last couple weeks because I feel like they're a little more nuanced, at least some positions. Let's start, as always, with the quarterback. Josh Allen, 16 of 22 for 209 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw his first interception of the season. He also ran for 45 yards, including that 3rd and 5. Josh Allen, I've been saying it all week, he goes into that I gotta have it mode at some point, and he did. He knew he had to have it, and he did. That was one of his, when his career is over and you look at all the great runs he's had, that'll definitely be a highlight reel run. Like I said, he did throw his first pick, which when you watch it back, Matt, on film, I don't think anything really was bad about it. It was the right decision, the right receiver. It was 3rd and long, threw it long. It wasn't a terrible throw. Maybe could have had a tiny little bit less air under it. But watching it on tape, I credit it more to the safety sacker. I thought just made a really good football player. Sometimes you just got to tip your cap to the opponent. But what I will say is after a couple of weeks, and we've talked about this, he hasn't really thrown interceptable worthy balls. He did, and he got away with one. There was another. It was a bad pass. I can't remember who it was. It was number 20. But he absolutely had it in his hands. He just flat out dropped it. That would have been a bad interception. So Josh got lucky there. But anyway, this game, I don't know if you want to compare it to his other performances or you just want to keep it to this game. But what's your evaluation of Josh Allen in the quarterback position?
This game was the first game I didn't give him one of the A grades, like A plus, A or A minus. I gave him a B plus for this game. I did think he sailed a couple passes. There was that whole second quarter lull that we'll, I'm sure, talk about later. Where they just couldn't score at all in the second. They couldn't even move the ball in the second quarter. So that was an interesting little thing to take in. Plus the sacks, which of course contributed to that second quarter lull. So I gave him a B plus. I do think we talked about this last week, and it was like the big topic of conversation was that Josh Allen wasn't pushing the ball down the field anymore. He was taking what the defense gave him. And then the media asked him about it this week in some of those press conferences. And so he started pushing the ball down the field again, which I was like, oh man, maybe this isn't what he should be doing. So I do think on that interception, he could have done a better job of looking the safety off, which would have created that space. So like I said, B plus, certainly he puts on the cape when he needs to. And we've seen that over and over again. But I think if they have a second quarter against the Patriots like they had against the Saints, we are talking about a different outcome of this game.
You know what? That's a great point. And also, he did get sacked 3 times, which you brought up, and I didn't. That does matter. And, I watched those sacks back on the All-22. Guys weren't really open. I don't want to put too much on him because at times sometimes when you're watching it live on TV and Josh Allen takes a sack, you're like, dude, what are you doing? Get rid of the football. You know what I mean? But when you watch it back, sometimes they're just not there. And I kind of felt like that was.
And last week we gave him a bunch of grief for like those intentional grounding things instead of taking a sack. And so like we can't complain about the intentional groundings and then like just
Right.
be like, oh yeah, take like, and then complain about the sacks too. So like all of it's a negative play. When those things happen. And of course it's not all on Josh, and we'll talk about the offensive line here in a second. I just thought it wasn't a great game from him. Like he was so locked in last week. And then this week, it just felt like he was like, after that first quarter, they were just really off kilter. Like he had a great opening drive, great second drive. And then just like, I know I keep coming back to it. I'm sorry. But like the second quarter was just bad.
No, the second quarter was terrible. It was very frustrating to watch. I think Joe Brady might have said on Monday that he told his team that the Saints were the best defense that they've played this season. I'll say this, and I might hit on this point a couple times throughout this show. The New Orleans Saints, I know what what was it, 15 and a half or something? The point spread was crazy. That's a direct reflection of the quarterback. And you saw why during the game, too. They just, he's not a good quarterback. And we'll kind of hit on that some when we get to the defense. But if you remove quarterback from the equation, the Saints are not a bad football team. They're a pretty good football team. I mean, they do have some talent on both sides of the ball. They have some skill position guys on that offense, and I feel like they have at least a handful of pretty good difference-making type of players on defense. But yeah, I'm with you, man. By Josh Allen's, anyone else's standards is at least an A-. But if we hold Josh to, and rightfully so, I believe at this point, a higher standard. Does it feel to you like, in totality through 4 games, does it feel to you like he's having just an okay season statistically? Like when you look at his numbers, or even if you don't even stare at him, but do you just kind of get a sense that statistically he's just been okay so far?
Yeah, and I think part of that like comes back to that piece of like not pushing the ball down the field. It's like he's gonna have like kind of like he hasn't had like a big huge passing game outside of the ending of the Ravens game, the second half of the Ravens game. And so like it feels like he hasn't had to yet. And so that's part of the thing about how the Bills have played like this quote unquote weak opening schedule is that they haven't needed Josh Allen to put on the cape very much. And so he hasn't done it, and that's fine. It's why we're going to be talking about James Cook so much, in our next little segment. Like James Cook has been carrying this offense for the first part of the season, and that's fine, but he's not going to do that for the rest of the season probably.
No, and I'm looking at the stats, and I asked you that because it feels like he hasn't thrown for like a ton of yards, but he's 7th in the NFL in passing yards right now, and he's like tied for 3rd in touchdown passes. So I mean, he's right on par statistically with.
And I'm sure if you add his rushing yards in there, he's like even higher than like he's probably in the top 5 or 6 for quarterbacks. But like it hasn't felt like we've seen like that. Well, I mean, we're going to say this again, probably. We haven't seen a complete game from the Bills, and we haven't really seen a complete game from Josh Allen yet either. So, I mean, they've scored 30 points in every game. Like, I mean, we said this last week too, like, they're not giving it their, A+ effort or their A+ performance, and they're still scoring 30 points a game every game.
And that's a great point because it's like, we find a lot of things to critique and nitpick or criticize depending on, how extensively you're talking negatively about some things. But yeah, they do score 30 points a game. And you know what? A lot of those times, though, it may be because the defense had a pick 6 or the defense put them inside the red zone to start a possession or 2. When you look back at this game, none of that happened. They didn't have a long kickoff return or punt return. They only had 1 turnover, and it was at the end of the half. They didn't have any drive starts in New Orleans territory this entire game until the last one where they were just taking a knee anyway. So this was a hard-fought, grinded, earned 31 points by the Bills offense in this game. And as you just alluded to, perhaps the star of this football game and the guy who on some levels has carried the Buffalo Bills now through a month is James Cook. The running back position is starting to feel like no longer an anomaly week to week. It's starting to feel like a trend right now. James Cook, 3rd straight game with over 100 yards rushing, 22 carries, 117 yards, a touchdown, which, by the way, he now has a rushing touchdown in a franchise record, 8 consecutive games. Like I said, 3 straight games with at least 100 yards rushing. He is 2nd right now in the NFL in rushing yards, just 14 yards behind the leader, Jonathan Taylor. He's been awesome. The other trend has been, a lot of James Cook and the old three-headed monster running back for now anyway remains dormant because Cook played 73% of the snaps, which was the second most he's ever played in his career in a single game. Meanwhile, Ty Johnson, 1 carry for no yards. And by the way, it was a bad carry. We'll talk about that when we come back to me. Ray Davis, 1 carry for 3 yards. He's only had 1 touchdown in his last 2 games. Neither running back had a reception. Cook had 3 short catches in the passing game. So again, it's all James Cook, but James Cook has been as good as anyone in the league. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, James Cook gets an A+. The rest of them don't. So I gave
Yeah,
him
but
a B overall.
Okay.
But James Cook's averaged 5.3 yards per carry in that game. It's not just, I mean, you went through Ray Davis and Ty Johnson's runs. It's not just that, they only had 1 rush and like 3 yards combined, or 2 rushes and 3 yards combined.
Mhm.
But it was when they had to have it, right? It was in that second quarter lull. It's 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5. And Ray Davis gets 3 yards on his carry. Ty Johnson gets stuffed on his carry. Then you get the Khalil Shakir end around for 0 yards on 4th down. Like, that was a turnover on downs because their running backs weren't able to do it without James Cook. And I mean, obviously we can complain about the play calling and you have, freaking Josh Allen back there on 3rd and 1 and you can't convert for 2 yards on 2 plays. So whatever, we can complain about that all we want, but Ty Johnson should be able to get a yard and Ray Davis should be able to convert on that 2nd down carry. So I gave them overall a B. And I mean, if it was just James Cook, it's an A+, but I don't know if he's going to be able to keep playing that number of snaps through February. And that's going to be an issue. And I think that's probably why he was on the sideline for that sequence.
I was going to ask you that, and you kind of sort of answered it already. Are you a fan of what we've seen over the first month? What would you prefer? Last year's model where Cook's playing, 45 to 49% of the snaps, and he's getting his touches and putting up numbers and getting into the end zone, but you had a lot of contributions for Ty Johnson or Ray Davis, because you could certainly make a case for that, and it keeps James Cook fresher. The opposite end is, I think we've seen more so now over the first month than at any point of his career, the talent discrepancy, I feel like anyway, between James Cook and then the drop-off with Johnson and Davis. Are you lots of teams have a true workhorse, number 1 running back. The Bills have one right now, at least right now, in James Cook. Which model do you kind of prefer?
Well, I'll say this. In a game against the Ravens, the Chiefs, a division matchup late in the season, I got no problem with James Cook running 80% of the snaps, 85% of the snaps. You earn the money, go earn it again. Against the Saints in week 4, I would love to see James Cook play less. I want to save him for the really important stuff. Like we talked about with Joey Bosa over the last couple of weeks, and we're gonna again this week. I want to save him for the important parts, and they haven't been able to do that because the other guys in the position group haven't been stepping up in their stead.
That's a good point in regards to the Ty Johnson carry that I got mad about. So I'll say this. I mean, I did a lot of yelling. Listen, when we do this show, I feel, and plus, especially when by the time you and I get together, usually it's Tuesday mornings. Typically, that's close to 48 hours removed from a game. The emotion, for the most part, is gone, and I'm able to be far more objective here when I discuss. If there was a hidden camera on me in my house during a game, or you don't even need that. If you just follow me on Twitter, because my head explodes, and you can see it in my tweets sometimes. I go overboard. I'm overreactionary. I feel like there's some people in the sports media or content creator world that are just very much like Nate Gary's another one. He just overreacts like freaking crazy. But I can't criticize him because I'm no better. Anyway, there were 2 points specifically that really made me scream at my television. One of them involved Dorian Williams, which we'll talk about in a few. The other one was, it was 3rd and 2, the Ty Johnson run. And that was the sequence where Shakir on 4th down got stopped. But that 3rd and 2, and I screamed at the TV then, and I watched it back on the film too. Ty Johnson just ran into the wrong spot. If he would have bounced it a little more to the right outside, he absolutely is getting the first down. For some reason, he turns left right into where the Saints guys were, and he got stuffed on that play. That shit pissed me off, man. I was like, what are you doing in that moment? But yeah, nothing from Johnson really this season. Plus, he dropped, not an easy catch, but a touchdown. It's been a very slow start for them. I'm not concerned, though. They'll pick it up. But I agree with you. Your grade is right. James Cook, great. The other guys, nothing. But we had 2 carries between both of them as well. All right, let's move on to wide receiver here.
Wait, before we do that,
You go ahead.
I just thought of it. Sorry.
Go
Reggie
ahead, go ahead.
Gilliam. Reggie Gilliam played a whole bunch of snaps in this game on offense at fullback. So they reintroduced the fullback a little bit more. Well, he played on the wing as well, but I just wanted to at least mention that he was out there. First significant number of snaps. I don't remember seeing him a ton, but he played 29% of the snaps. And so when you're talking about Dalton Kincaid playing 40, it's not that far off of that. So
I'm going to look it up while we talk next, because I forgot about Gilliam. I forget about him all the time. He is a running back, technically. He just never touches the ball. But yeah, he did play a lot. So did Jackson Haas, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well. But first, wide receivers. All right. The highlight, Khalil Shakir, 5 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown. Those numbers won't blow you away, but he has that first touchdown of the game. That contact balance that he has, it looked like he was going down. He doesn't. He scores. There's so many times where I look at Khalil Shakir and I'm like, all right, you know what? I call him a handy-dandy slot guy, a guy that, moves the change. You could trust him, but there's a lot of them around the league. There's not a lot around the league that could run after the catch and do what we saw from Khalil Shakir. That's what puts him on that different level than the typical otherwise handy-dandy, chain-moving slot receivers. That was just an incredible play. It really was, man. And you got to appreciate that. So anyway, 5 for 69 and a touchdown for him. Keon Coleman, 3 catches for 45 yards. Those all came relatively quickly. Then he didn't really do anything in the second half. I'm not blaming him for that. Josh Palmer, 2 catches for 25 yards. Curtis Samuel in his return, 1 catch for 9 yards. The one thing I do want to point out, because I had to go back and look it up, was the snap percentage. I'm wondering, when Curtis Samuel came in, who was going to get affected by this? It was not Keon Coleman. He played 73% of his snaps. Khalil played right around where he normally plays. Josh Palmer only played 25% of the snaps in this game. Elijah Moore, who did not have a target, and neither did Tyrell Shavers either, by the way, this game. Elijah Moore has made a nice catch in the last 2 games. He didn't even get a target, I don't believe, in this game. He definitely didn't have a catch. I know that. I think he played 27% of the snaps or something like that. But anyway, it was Moore, and it was Josh Palmer who really got affected by the return of Samuel. But the wide receiver position as a whole, what are you thinking?
Yeah, that was what I was going to mention is the snap counts. It was very interesting to see Curtis Samuel become a really important piece of the offense, and Josh Palmer take that back seat. Excuse me. Khalil Shakir, I listened to Joe Biscaglia's podcast this week, and he mentioned that Shakir didn't play in very many of the 2 wide receiver sets. I think it was only 3 snaps in the 2 wide receiver sets. So they really are using him in that slot kind of role to get him into space, because that's what he does really well. It's not quite the, the slot receiver thing that they had back in the past, but it's, that's kind of where they're going with him.
Yeah.
Josh Palmer, with how much he makes, seeing his snap counts was very surprising to me. It also would not surprise me if they went completely away from what they did in this game next week, and Curtis Samuel's back on the bench and Josh Palmer's back up to, 45, 50% of the snaps.
Yeah. And by the way, Reggie Gilliam, I had to look it up because you really had me intrigued. He played 17 snaps in this game. So 29% of the snaps for a fullback is a lot in this football game. Elijah Moore, 31% of the snaps. And Samuel, 34% of the snaps. Even Shavers was right there at 24. And yeah, Josh Palmer, just 25%. And, he had 2 catches, and he had a nice catch on the first drive too, Palmer. So I don't think, Sean McDermott always says, the guys get benched or whatever. It's not that the guy did anything wrong. We heard it with Trey, here with, Dorian Williams or whatever. That's true with Josh Palmer. At least from what I saw, he didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, I won't read too much into it this week, about Palmer getting a low snap count. But if this becomes a trend, then I definitely will have a problem with that. Did you agree with the decision, or do you like the decision if it were to continue, where they roll with 6 receivers, is Samuel being the 6th, and the guy who's inactive because of that is Brandon Condrington, because Curtis Samuel, we'll talk about special teams in a few, but he returned kicks for the Bills. Do you like that better?
I didn't notice a whole lot as far as like, the kick return and stuff like that. I know they had Shakir back on punt returns, which I
Hated
don't
that.
particularly
Hated
love. So
hated it. It's one of
that
the
was
least favorite things about this game for me. I hated it.
Yeah, Ty Johnson had a 13-yard kick return. So, like, I
Yeah.
do think that having Codrington back there is probably a better option than having Samuel active on game day. But yeah, it didn't like in the moment. I wasn't like screaming for Brandon Codrington. Like, it just, except for when Shakir fielded that punt, and I'm like, I don't like this. So
well, I agree with that, but more so Samuel being out there, even if I don't, whether he runs a 90-yard kickoff back or he gets, hit for a 10-yard gain, and that's it. Him being out there and on that team and on the field is cutting into somebody's snaps, because if he's active, he's not just going to be, he's not Brandon Condrington. He's not on the game day active just to be the kick returner. He's going to be involved in the offense as well. And like I said, I don't have an issue with Curtis Samuel, Matt. What we've seen from Elijah Moore the last 2 weeks is why I think he's an asset to the Bills. He's had a catch of 30 or more yards 2 straight games, and then he doesn't have a touch in this game with Curtis Samuel back. Josh Palmer.
They gave him a run.
Yeah.
Elijah Moore had one.
Yeah. He did have a run, but he didn't have any catches in the passing game. And like I said, Josh Palmer, he hasn't been potent so far this year, but he definitely took a step back. So we'll see. We'll see if it continues.
And in 2 weeks, I think we're really like the rubber's really going to meet the road when Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi come off that suspended list, because they're going to have to create a roster spot for at least Hoyt. I don't know about Ogunjobi. We're kind of still, I don't know, jury's still out on whether they're going to add him back to the roster or not, but they're going to have to create a roster spot. And Codrington is one of the guys on the short list that they could do that with. So maybe this was like that trial run to be like, okay, what's going to happen if we cut Codrington? Can we get by with Khalil Shakir returning punts, Ty Johnson and Curtis Samuel back returning kicks?
That's a good point. I agree. Actually, I didn't think of that. And I think Condrington will get cut after those 2 guys come back, if there's no significant injuries over the next couple weeks. Anyway, let's take a real quick break, come back, and we'll get through a lot more positions and take a look at the Patriots right after this quick break. All right, back here, Matt Warren, SB Nation. Let's go to tight ends here. The passing game wise, Dalton Kincaid just 1 catch for 28 yards. However, he made it count. It was the back-breaking touchdown of this football game. Nice wheel route. He beats the Saints at Carl Granderson, matched up on him. That's not really going to work out, and it didn't for them. But anyway, 1 catch for 28 yards. Jackson Hawes, 1 catch for 15 yards. Jackson Hawes, team leading among tight ends. Snap count there, 53% of the snaps he played. He's becoming a fixture in his offense. Dawson Knox, a quiet day. He's had a really quiet season with catching the ball, at least anyway. He played 41%. Dalton Kincaid only 37%. That's a little lower than I like, but again, you can only have 11 guys on the field at one time, and the Bills were doing a lot of shit in this game. But I don't know, tight end, what do you think?
Yeah, if they were going to have Reggie Gilliam on the field for so many snaps at fullback, the snaps have to come from somewhere. And so in this case, it came from the tight end position a little bit. So Dalton Kincaid played so sparingly in the first 3 quarters that search traffic around Dalton Kincaid inactive spiked in the 3rd quarter. Like, we got literally thousands of page views on our inactives post because people were searching to see if Dalton Kincaid was in the game.
Wow.
So I think it's hilarious. I thought it was hilarious when we went over it on Monday, and then of course he scores the touchdown. So like, people know he was active, but they didn't in the 3rd quarter apparently. So I thought the snap counts were the most interesting thing. the Jackson Hawes stuff, like, I mean, we knew he was going to take all those 6 offensive lineman snaps, but like they're putting him in a really important position in this offense right now. And I don't think it necessarily says anything about Dawson Knox this year, but I mean, it's a pretty clear indication that he's going to have a significant role going forward. And if Dalton Kincaid's also going to have a significant role going forward, man, it's a lot less for Dawson Knox, as we saw in the snap counts for this game. He did have a target on one of those Josh Allen floaty balls, and wasn't able to high point it and get it. But I thought that was a great play by the defense, more than a drop or anything like that from Dawson Knox. So I do like that they have 3, because Kincaid hasn't shown that he can go a whole season without getting hurt. Knox has been hurt in the past. With how physical Hawes plays, injuries could happen to him as well. So like having 3, like we just talked about with the wide receivers, having an extra guy there isn't a bad thing, as we've seen in Miami and Baltimore in the last, few weeks. So I'm not necessarily worried about those snap counts right now, because I think over the course of the season, it's going to even back out, with dings and bruises and all that other stuff.
Grade?
Oh, I gave them a B- because their final numbers ended up okay. 2 catches for 43 yards and a touchdown. Like, that's okay. And, the way that they're using Jackson Hawes in the pass and in the blocking game, is important. But like, I mean, B- I think is fine. Like, I didn't see anything that was like, egregiously horrible. They just didn't have a huge impact in the game.
Dawson Knox has 4 catches for 39 yards this season so far through 4 games right now. I just want to point that out. Jackson Hawes. All right, so you know what he's becoming? Well, 2 things real quick about Jackson Hawes, and I want to move on here. The play where he caught the 15-yard pass. So Gilliam's in the game, and so is Knox. They had 2 tight ends, that pound the ball formation. You really see the difference between Alec Kim and Alec Anderson, because they can run that play. That's not a play you can run with Alec Anderson unless it's like near the goal line. If you want to throw it to him in the end zone, maybe. But that just brings an element to the Bills' offense. He's a good enough blocker to be out there when they run the ball 90% of the time in that formation, but he's athletic enough to make the catch in the play in the passing game. So I feel like he has really added an element, and he is quickly becoming a very popular Buffalo Bill. Like last year, I felt like, and you know what, I'll throw myself in there. People were accusing me of having Mac Holland funerals every week on the show during the offseason. Joe from Queens was doing that to me. Everybody loved Mac Hollins last year. Like, he was one of the most popular players on the team. Jackson Hawes is headed down that road. I can already tell. Like, you're going to start to see more and more 85 jerseys in the stands soon enough. He's becoming a really popular player on this football team. And he kind of, that blue collar, go get him, hit him in the mouth kind of mentality that he has is really endearing to the fans. You could feel it already.
Yeah, absolutely. The blue collar thing. He's the one that had the great Matt Prater quote too, right? At the beginning of the season. Like, I thought it was like another coach walking in the room, and it's Prater. I think that was him.
Offensive line. All right, so the Bills ran for 209 yards. That's good. Josh Allen was sacked 3 times. That's not great. But again, that's a combination of a lot of things. A little bit on Josh, a little bit on the receivers not getting open. 4 starters. Ryan Vandermark, who, I dedicated a nice little chunk of my first segment on yesterday's Takeaway show to Ryan Vandermark, because I was wrong in my instant live reaction shows and a little bit on Twitter. I was very, very critical of him. Even Monday morning before I got into the film, Matt, his grade was the 2nd highest on PFF. And I always take PFF with a grain of salt. But I was like, that's a joke. Then I went back and I'm like, not really. And then I got into it. I had an intelligent adult conversation with Joe Marino from Locked On Bills on social media. And then Brandon Thorne, because who was tagged in her, he jumped in and he spliced up a clip of about 30 seconds of some awesome clips of Ryan Vandermark run blocking very effectively. He had a couple bad reps, so he wasn't great. But he didn't stick out like the sore thumb that I thought he did initially. Okay. So I do want to point that out. But anyway, we're not talking about just Ryan Vandermark. We're talking about the entire unit. What are your thoughts?
Right. And that's a good point. Ross Tucker talks about that a lot. He's like, the difference between a bad lineman and a good lineman, or a serviceable lineman, is like 3 bad reps in one game. Like, that's what we're talking about. It's a very small margin of error. And Vandermark looked bad on those 3 snaps, that are the margin of error. Like on the 4th down run, He was the one that was pulling across the formation. Osiris Torrance gets pushed back a little bit. So Vandermark stumbles, can't get the kick out block that would have got the first down. Like, is that a Torrance problem? Is that a Vandermark problem? Is it just like bad luck? Sure. Like, you could have that conversation.
Spoiler alert. It's a Joe Brady problem, but go ahead.
Well, okay. Yeah. Okay. Like, that's completely fair. But like the execution part of it, like it's probably just bad luck. But, the 3 Allen sacks, they allowed 7 hits of Josh Allen, which is a little bit higher than I like, obviously. Deion Dawkins had a false start on that really off. So yeah, I didn't think that they were great. I gave them a C-. It feels like James Cook is setting up the blocks really, really well, as opposed to the blocks being there and James Cook benefiting from them, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And that's a great point. And that really, it just brings to the forefront the vision that James Cook has this year, which is, I don't want to go back to talk about James Cook more, although it's hard to not talk about him because he's been so good. The only thing I'll say about the offensive line is I completely agree with you. I think of their 4 games, and they were by no means terrible in this game, but I do think as a unit, this was their worst game so far this season, which again comes at a game where the offense literally by themselves, without much help from the defense, still scored 31 points. Correct. So let's not get too crazy here. But yeah, I agree with you there. Defensive tackle, some good and some bad. The good, Deion Walker, 2 tackles for a loss in the first half. I clipped both of them, and man, oh man, both times he threw somebody off one-on-one and made the play by himself on both plays. So, it wasn't like the running back just happened to fall into him either. These were plays that Deion Walker just made. Great flashes from him. Daquan Jones had 3 tackles, and he had a sack in this game. It wasn't like a Ed Oliver, bull rush kind of sack, but he did get off the block, and Rattler was trying to scramble, and Daquan Jones was in position to bring him down for a small loss. So it was a sack for him. He played pretty decent. TJ Sanders, you said before in the first half, this is where you and I are going to disagree. You don't know where Larry Ogunjobi, if they're going to have a spot for him. I do know that they're going to have a spot for him. He's going to play, and at this rate, TJ Sanders is going to join Landon Jackson as late to the class, but in the redshirt freshman class, potential, as long as his team stays healthy, he might be in a tracksuit for a handful of games. He's just not getting it done. And it's very, very obvious. He can't get off blocks. His awareness, there's a lot that's not there yet. I don't want to get into this long diatribe about Sanders. I still think he could be a good player. I just don't think he's ready right now in September, October of his rookie season. And then Jordan Phillips, okay. He played out there. He pumped the crowd up a little bit. That was about it. And Deion Walker, by the way, flashed, but he's got things to work on too. Like he's not Jeffrey Simmons quite yet, so let's not get crazy. But that's the defensive tackle position in my eyes. What do you think?
Yeah, Walker's been just a pleasure to watch since training camp. And I remember the first day of padded practices, I think he was out for some reason. And I was so sad that I didn't get to watch him on the first day of padded practices, but I was able to get out there the following week and see him. It's really hard to imagine unless you're like close to him to see how big and powerful he is. It's almost like when like people talk about bears, like grizzly bears, and they're like cute and cuddly, but then you're next to them and they just look so powerful and like their muscles are like, bigger than your whole body and stuff like that. He's just a massive human. And like we've said really all off season, if he can get past that back injury that knocked him down draft boards, the dude's a first round talent that the Bills were able to get, in the later rounds. And so I really like what I've seen from him. The Jordan Phillips and TJ Sanders pairing can like get shot out of a cannon and never come back. They let up a bunch of runs in that first quarter. The whole first quarter was really not the friend of the defensive tackle position in general. And so they do need Ed Oliver back. I think they are going to get him. When I was talking about Larry Ogunjobi, I'm not necessarily saying like there isn't a spot in the rotation for him. Sure there is. I'm just wondering like where the roster spot is going to come from. Like, because like you can sit TJ Sanders on a Sunday, but like who's going to be, I don't know where's that roster spot coming from? And that's like, they're not going to cut TJ Sanders for sure. So like, I'm just trying to figure that whole piece out at the moment. But, everyone played over 40% this week. And that was interesting to me, seeing Jordan Phillips play 40% of the snaps. but they only had one QB hit, and that was the Daquan Jones sack. So I'll go C. Let's go there.
Okay. I'll go C minus. Just a little bit worse. I feel like they should have had more success against that line
Probably.
than they did. Just for shits and giggles, because I can't put anything off and wait. When you mention something, if it gets me thinking, I can't help it.
Okay.
Just a little bit of quick fun. So Ogunjobi and Hoyt are in. Who would be out? And you're right. They have to get 2 roster spots. It's not just inactive. I think Hodgerton would be a lock for one. If this was a bet and you could go to Vegas and bet it, I would say maybe Chase Lunt would be the favorite right now. You could try to get him back to the practice squad. I feel like it's who else really would it be? Tyrell Shavers? I would hate to do that. I think Tyrell Shavers would get picked up if at this point. If he's not on the Bills' active roster, I think he would be on someone's active roster. I think there'd be a better chance of him getting claimed than Chase Lunt right now. So just for shits and giggles, again, if somebody gets hurt, then it becomes an easy decision. Or if somebody gets put on IR.
Javon Solomon's name is probably on that list.
Yes, good point too.
Like it's not a long list, and that's kind of like what I was saying before. Yeah. It's like, do you want Ogunjobi or Javon Solomon? I mean, obviously Michael Hoyt coming in kind of changes the math at the defensive end position, but like, in just a straight 1-to-1, I'd probably rather have Javon Solomon than Ogunjobi. Just
sure,
probably.
Okay, defensive edge. AJ Epinesa looked great in the last 3 minutes of the game. He did. He's been okay. Greg Results, come on, what are we doing here, dude? It's been a month. He's got a half a sack. I know he's one of those guys. There's just guys in football and sports where stats don't always tell the whole story. I know that shit, man. But you're a $20 million a year edge rusher. You got one half a sack a month into the season. That doesn't make me happy. Javon Solomon stunk, and Joey Bosa, sorry, Javon. And Joey Bosa, again, his sack at the end of the game. Let me try to do something. I got to put this up because I think I could talk. Let's just hope I don't screw this up afterwards, man.
Okay,
one of the clips I made was there it is. I'm pointing it, and we're talking. 3 plays in a row. Alvin Kamara had 3 plays where he ran for 10 or more yards. Literally all 3 plays were on the left end, and on all 3 plays, Joey Bosa is either out of position or he just whiffs on the tackle here, as you could see.
Yep.
There goes one more. He's going to the left, and Bosa he can't make the play. He got caught inside a little bit. Now, was it all his fault? No, the second level could be there and kind of help out a little bit as well, and they weren't. But when you look at that, and I'm playing it again here as I'm trying to get out of it, like I said, not the great with working these. I'm still working out to work this platform, but I had to show that because a lot of people just look at the stats. Here's another sack as a forced fumble. He's already got this many sacks. He already got like 4 forced fumbles this season. Yeah, he does. He's done, and he's been good, I think. But he also, again, he's really bad, or not. I shouldn't say he's really bad. He played really bad in this game against the run. I want that to factor in. What do you think?
It's not just this game. I mean, he's been like, it was all the way back to week 1. He let Lamar Jackson get the edge several times. He let Justin Fields get the edge at least once. Even in that game when the Jets were doing nothing. It's a problem. It is a big problem for Joey Bosa. And I know, like you said, people are going to look at the numbers and be like, Joey Bosa's playing great. He's not hurt. And that's all true. But one of the things that Greg Rousseau does so effectively is set that edge in the running game. So you see now the teams are attacking Joey Bosa's edge because they know that he gets sucked in and that it's available. And they did it, like you said, multiple times in this Saints game. And we've seen it in every game so far this season. So it's going to keep continuing until he shows that he's capable of setting the edge. He had another sack, played a whole bunch of reps again, which I'm still surprised he's playing this many snaps. But so he's producing, but that's a big question mark and a big problem.
Yeah. Grade.
B-, just because, like you said, like that 17-yard run from Kamara on the first drive was really what set up them scoring. I know that there was another play we're going to talk about with the cornerbacks missing like a billion tackles, but that's really what set the Saints up for that first quarter march.
When you look at Joey Bosa's stats, if we were having a conversation in week 1, and I said, "Yay, Matt, 4 games in, Joey Bosa's going to have 2 sacks and 4 forced fumbles. I'd be like, sign me up.
And I
Sign me
still
up.
I still want to be signed up for Joey Bosa. I still want the Joey Bosa experience. But like if he keeps those numbers up, he's going to the Pro Bowl, like, and everything like that. But he could still, like, 3-4 times a game lose the edge and really become a problem.
Linebackers, Bernard, Dorian Williams, Shaq Thompson a little bit. Let me throw this right to you. Linebackers.
Well, I think we're seeing a little bit of the Dorian Williams regression, come back to earth kind of deal. I think we might start seeing more of the Shaq Thompson. I know what to expect from Shaq Thompson. He's going to be in the right spot all the time. Kind of moves from Sean McDermott. Bernard had a good blitz and a good QB hit.
Yes.
Andreessen came into the game when Bernard's shoe came off for that one play. So that was interesting. But the Saints, like you said, ran through the Bills pretty easily. And so I gave them a C+ on the whole. It just didn't work for me. They need Matt Milano back. They need Terrell Bernard to not miss snaps, because when those things happen and we get into the Dorian Williams of it all and we get into the Shaq Thompson of it all, they definitely lose effectiveness.
This is going to be, maybe in 4 weeks of doing this exercise, you and I, this might be the biggest disagreement that we've had. Okay. I give him a D. I thought this position was awful in this game. I thought it was awful. Terrell Bernard missed tackles, didn't get off blocks. He did have that nice pressure. Could have had an interception that would have been identical to the 2-1 if he made the right read. But he wasn't my big problem. Dorian Williams was my big problem. I thought in this game, and I'm a pro Dorian Williams guy. I feel like I always need to preface that because I like Dorian Williams. I've been making a case prior to this that, hey, man, maybe it's his time, whether Matt Milano's healthy or not. I don't feel that way anymore. I thought Dorian Williams was the worst player on the field in this game for the Buffalo Bills. He was that bad. He was that bad watching it real-time Sunday, and he was that bad or worse watching it back on film. Too many mistakes. Well, I want to get to other stuff, or we'd be here all night. I will say this. I think Sean McDermott was telling a little bit of a white lie. So without naming names, I'll just say I wanted to know. I noticed on the Bills' second last drive, Dorian Williams was not out there. Shaq Thompson was with Bernard. I wanted to know if Dorian Williams got benched. So I texted a Buffalo Sports media member, and I said, please ask Sean McDermott on Monday's presser this. And they did. And Sean McDermott said he had a little bump, Dorian Williams. I think that's a lie. Maybe he did have a little bump. They all got little bumps. I think for football reasons, Shaq Thompson got out there on that second last drive. Shaq Thompson has looked good. Shaq Thompson might be the reason why I give this position an F for this game. If Matt Milano's good to go, he's starting. If he is, Shaq Thompson, I'm ready to say Shaq Thompson should be that third linebacker. He's an experienced veteran football player who's not going to hurt you with stupidity, with boneheaded mistakes. Dorian Williams is a great football player at times. Dorian Williams makes a lot of mistakes, assignment-wise, gap integrity, or a really dumb, boneheaded personal foul penalty on that Cole Bishop, which did hurt them, Matt. There was a minute 31 left before that play. If they're out at the 14-yard line, which where they should have been, that offense might open up. You're inside the 3. You just don't want to get a safety. You know what I mean? You don't want something bad to happen. So Dorian Williams directly affected the end of that first half. So I'll add that to the mix. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I hadn't even added in the Dorian Williams penalty. I forgot who even did it, but
yeah.
So 100% right with it.
So I'm ready to see Shaq Thompson, who's been impressive to me. If he's that third linebacker out there, I'm ready for that. And if Milano's going to miss this game too, I'm ready to see Shaq Thompson out there with Bernard. All right, we got to get to a couple of others. Getting low on time here. Corner. Christian Benford got beat for a short touchdown. Hasn't been quite the same player this year, I guess. Teron Johnson, the only thing I noticed about him was him whiffing on that Miller touchdown run, which was 1 of 3, by the way. And the last of those 3 was Trey White, who, again, maybe Sean's being truthful about Dorian Williams. He wants to get the young guy reps and this and that. I agree with that strategy, but I'm not so sure that it was something that was, planned and we were going to do that no matter how the game unfolded. If Trey's balling out there, I really don't think you're seeing 15 snaps from Dorian Strong. To me, it feels like let's start to get ready for what's starting to feel more and more imminent with Trey White, and that they just discover he's not it. Anyway, cornerbacks, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up those missed tackles because those don't often show up in the stat sheet, but I mean, they were really brutal on that first drive. I do think the Dorian Strong mixing in thing is interesting because, like, I mean, all indications are that Maxwell Harrison's going to come back at some point, maybe on the bye week, start practicing and be back and playing for this team at some point. But they're still trying to get Dorian Strong reps, which means I do think that they're looking for what's going to happen after Tre'Davious White. Maybe not like necessarily during the 2025 season if Harrison comes back, but at some point they're looking past Trey White being like, okay, Dorian Strong needs to get some reps to get in here. I don't think it was performance related. Like you said, if Trey White was balling out, I don't think they would have replaced him. But I don't think that Trey was playing poor enough where they're like, okay, we're going to put Dorian Williams in and just take our lumps and see what happens. So, I mean, they couldn't really pass the ball. The longest pass I think was 17 yards, and it was a short, pass play that he got a whole bunch of yak. So, like, I mean, they did an okay job in the pass defense kind of as a whole. I don't know if it was because of the cornerbacks or because the pass rush was getting there a little bit, but it just, I don't know. I give them a B- just because they did really have, that really tough opening drive. But like you look at Spencer Rattler's passing stats and you got to be like, okay, well, someone's got to get a positive grade when the quarterback throws for 126 yards.
Sure. But to your point, I'll say this. I think it was more of a Spencer Rattler was the quarterback as opposed to the Bills just had really good suffocating coverage.
That's fine.
Kind of deal. Hot take, and I only say it's a hot take because it's not a hot take to fans. I say it's a hot take because I think Sean McDermott is going to get to a point this season where he has to face the unfortunate reality that I think ultimately Trey White's cooked. I just think it's going to come to that. Gut feeling, all right? I hope I'm wrong. It's not like Trey White is going out there and embarrassing himself.
No.
Although that effort on that Miller touchdown to get off the block and make that tackle, that was embarrassing. But so was it for Teron Johnson and Taylor Rapp as well. So Trey was one of three on that play. And I do not buy Max Harrison unless he has to play because of injuries. I don't think that you're going to see much, if any, from Max Harrison, meaningful football from him this year. I just think he's missed too much time. I just think that missing as much camp and all the preseason as a rookie, the way Sean McDermott thinks, I just think he's missed too much time. So I think it's imminent with Trey, but it's going to be Dorian Strong ultimately who's going to get that call.
That's ultimately what we said last year with Cole Bishop. And then we did see a couple injuries and he ended up in the lineup. So
yes,
I do think that's why they're trying to get the Dorian Strong situated. I wonder if Dane Jackson's on like a speed dial somewhere, so like that kind of stuff. But like, if that's what we're doing in week 17, like we're pulling AJ Klein off campers, just had to throw that in for you. I do think that they're in kind of a little bit of a pickle at this cornerback position.
Yes, I agree. Dane Jackson's still in the practice squad, by the way. So they want to. I don't think they have to go too far to find him. Hopefully, they don't have. I don't want to see Dane Jackson unless it's week 17, meaningless. Week 18, meaningless game. Anyway, safety. Cole Bishop, an incredible interception. Not just the interception itself, but watching it back on film. Bro, he came from the right hash, saw that play, snuffed it out. He went a long, long way. So great play by him. Nice physicality. He's a good tackler. He's a good physical tackler. Not a perfect game for him. Little bit, he got caught staring in Rattler's eyes a little bit on that quick Olave slant when he got inside Benford. I feel like, and I looked on film, it was only a two-man route. He should have been in better position maybe to break that up. And I think Benford knew that as well. You can see by that look right after the play. So there was that. And again, Spencer Rattler did Spencer Rattler things because Brandon Cooks juked, I should say, Cole Bishop. On the broadcast, they said he slipped. He didn't slip. He got juked out of his shoes by Brandon Cooks. It was just a shitty throw from Rattler. So Bishop, an up and down game, but promising. And look, I'm just going to say it. I don't see what most people see in Taylor Rapp. I just don't. Again, not a sure tackler. He sure is good with friendly fire, though. He's a good playmaker, but we're not seeing plays, and he's just, I don't know, man. I'm not a Taylor Rapp guy right now at this point. What do you think safeties?
I know I've said this before, but I do think that they're playing their safeties a little bit safe. Sorry, excuse the expression. I do think they're playing a little bit safe with their safeties because of their concerns at cornerback. And so
Mm.
I do think that they're not able to do everything with those guys that they want to. I ended up with like an A- for them. Again, like Rattler throws for 126 yards. The longest play was 17 yards. The longest
Mm.
pass play was 17 yards. And it was like I said earlier, a catch and run where they just had to make the tackle. So I mean, I didn't see a whole ton of stuff from the safety position that I was just like, oh my god, that's terrible.
Right.
And Cole Bishop's great athletic play, I think, makes up for a lot of those other
Yes.
mistakes. So that's why I ended up at an A-. But like, I wouldn't argue with anyone that thought that they did a poorer job in that game.
Yeah, and you should give some credit. Part of the safety position, maybe the most important part of the safety position is you don't let anyone get behind you and you don't give up a 70-yard touchdown, a long touchdown, and the Bills didn't do that. I don't know. Maybe it's just, again, I keep going back to Spencer Rattler just not being a very good thrower
We see it
of the football.
if you watch the other games this week. Like, you saw the Rams get an 80 something yard touchdown to Tutu Atwell. You saw the Vikings get like an 80-yard pass play to on a broken coverage. Like, you can see it around the NFL that
Sure.
there's bad safety play too. And so it's like, okay, as long as they're like remotely where they're supposed to be, like that's a good step. And I do think that the Bills are doing it that way. I haven't seen like, I haven't seen Cole Bishop or Taylor Rapp out there where they look completely lost. And so I think that's at least a step in the positive direction when you look around the league.
Quick random question. If Sean McDermott absolutely insisted DeMar Hamlin's going to start tomorrow and for the rest of the season, and only one of these two starters who are out there right now going forward, who would you rather have for the rest of this year, Taylor Rapp or Cole Bishop?
Cole Bishop, he's got a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
I just don't see the downside of keeping Cole Bishop out there.
Agreed, 100%. Us, dude, we can skip special teams. All right. Look, Matt Prater, short field goal, perfect on extra points. Johnson, 2 punts for 41.5 yards, got hurt. We're going to be looking for a new punter as we speak.
Johnston's punts were not good. He had a 33-yard net return or 33-yard net punt this game. He's at like 37 yards net punting this season. Even without the injury, I think that guy was going to get replaced.
I was going to say, I think there was a good chance that the Bills were having punter tryouts on probably yesterday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Before this podcast comes out, they're signing a punter.
Yeah, 100%, because they practice on Wednesday, so they will have a punter sign. I'm sure they'll come to agreement by Tuesday night at the latest. Anyway, Khalil Shakir returned to punt, and we both agree. I hate that. It's week 4. If it's the playoffs, okay. But I don't want to see Khalil Shakir back there, and I don't want to see Keon Coleman back there either, okay? You got Samuel, you got Elijah Moore. Let one of those two guys be the punt returner right now, man. Call fair catch, whatever. If one of those guys go down, I'll live with it. If the Bills were to lose Khalil Shakir to a knee injury because of a freaking punt return against the Carolina Panthers in week 6 or 7, I will absolutely lose my shit. So there's that.
Fair.
Coaching. Good and bad moments. I mean, again, I want to get to some things so we really don't need to dive deep into it. Brady's play call on 4th down was stupid. Feels like he always has 1 or 2 surrender drives a game. That was certainly one of them. But he also dialed up some nice shit. That touchdown to Kincaid right after the Josh Allen run, that was a beautiful call. I got fooled. I thought that was going to be a swing pass to Ty Johnson. And then Kincaid gets off in a wheel route. He gets the matchup he wants with Granderson. Bam, touchdown. Like I said, they're using Haas. They're using Gilliam. They're giving them a lot of looks. They're committed to running the ball. So it's good on the offense. Defense, look, Bobby Babbage ain't out there tackling people. Maybe he should be, but he's not. I thought they dialed up decent pressure. I didn't think the Bills were caught in bad schemes and things like that. Sometimes the players got to play. So maybe you disagree. I really don't have any issue with Bobby Babbage. I know he's getting a lot of heat from fans this week, but I don't see it. What do you think, real quick?
I also don't have a problem with Bobby Babbage. I think the first drive they were on roller skates. Really, the whole first quarter for the defense wasn't great. They allowed 100 yards in that first quarter and the touchdown. The offense was kind of the opposite. They had a great first quarter, then a crappy second quarter. The 3 drives in the second quarter that were really meaningful was like -1 yards, 16 yards, 5 and out, and then -21 yards and a punt. Like, I mean, just really crappy. So, and then they get the, like you said, the minute 22 seconds, but they start at their own 3-yard line for that final drive of the second quarter. And you're just kind of very limited there. And so like, I wish we didn't see lulls, but I also don't necessarily think we see them when they're playing a top tier team. So it, like you said, it could be the mental, like, I'm just going to take my foot off the gas against the Saints kind of thing. And so that to me speaks more to the players necessarily than the coaching. And so like, I think overall I was fine with this game. I gave them a B-. Like it
Yeah,
didn't seem like anything like egregious was out there.
I agree. I agree with you. I think a B minus is very fair for this game. By the way, I want to give a quick shout out and credit to Mitch Morse. Of course, Mitch Morse is leading the charge. Seen about 1 million pictures of him tailgating and chugging beers and shit when doing shots with fans. Real quick, Saturday I went to Wingnuts and he was on with Perino and Ryan Talbot. I got a chance to meet Mitch. Got a photo with him, a nice little conversation with him. I guess we'll call it backstage, behind where the back tables were and stuff like that. But anyway, he went on the show and he said, listen, because he played with Jacksonville last year and Jacksonville stunk. And he goes, sometimes they just showed up and that we got nothing to lose mindset and mentality. And it's hard to win in the NFL and it's hard to blow teams out in the NFL. Anyway, he picked, he had it 31-21. The final score was 31-19. So, good job. Good forecasting there from our friend Mitch Morse. All right, real quick. Patriots here. Week 5, Highmark Stadium, Sunday Night Football. The Patriots are 2-2. They beat Carolina last week 42-13. Both their losses this season. The good news is they were both just one-score games. Bad news is they lost at home to Vegas and Pittsburgh, both at home. Drake May's got 988 yards and 7 touchdowns, but he's been sacked 13 times, which is third most in the NFL. So a good opportunity for the Bills to get the pass rush going. Stephon Diggs, 19 catches to lead the Patriots, 213 yards. Hunter Henry's been their big weapon, though. 15 catches. He got 3 touchdowns this year, 200 yards receiving. Old friend Matt Collins, he's got nine catches, 2 touchdowns. Other side of the football, Harold Landry III. Guy really liked this offseason. He signed with New England. He's got 3.5 sacks this year. Christian Gonzalez is getting back now. He's a great corner. The interesting thing for me, Matt, is the Bills are running the ball very well. It's better than anybody. The New England Patriots are stopping the run almost as good as anybody. They're third right now in rush defense. They're second in rushing yards per carry, and they're first in run stuff percentage. I didn't know this. I was looking up next-gen stats this morning. Best in the NFL, 28% of their runs have been stuffed. Now, they're shitty in pass defense, 26th, and they're 28th in yards per pass. So there's some interesting, the Bills, an opportunity maybe for Josh to sling the ball around prime time, Sunday Night Football on NBC. We're not going to do a preview today, but I do want to know your thoughts right now. This game feels juicier to me now than it did maybe 10 days ago because I think New England is clearly the second best team in this division and is an opportunity for the Bills to put a nail in the coffin already, literally after 5 weeks in the division. What are your initial early thoughts here?
Yeah, you laid out a really good case why the Patriots aren't like terrible. There's a couple other stats. They're top 10 in both offense and defensive scoring right now. So they're a nice, well-rounded team. Christian Gonzalez, like you said, coming back. And so they have been giving up a lot of pass plays. Maybe that lessens now that their first rounders back in the lineup. The Panthers game is so funny because you look at it and it's like, oh, they scored 42 points. They completely blew out the Panthers. There were no turnovers in that game. And like the Patriots only had 307 yards of offense. So it's like, it's not like they dropped 500 yards and just rolled them. It was just a really good defensive effort. And the Patriots were really efficient. And so it speaks to their ability to win this game. I think they have the talent on that team. This is not the same Patriots team we've seen for the last 4 years or whatever. I do think that if the Bills play like they played against the Saints, they're going to lose this game. And so but I will say the Bills in prime time, pristine. Josh Allen in front of a national TV audience, like the dude steps up, he puts out his like Superman cape. He is the man. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if this game is like, one of those 42-35 games that we've been seeing. The Bills put up another game with 30 plus points. And, we just really see some fireworks in this game.
Rivalry week uniforms for the Bills. Only the home team wears them. That's why I learned that. So they're going to be wearing those dope uniforms in that football game.
They want the fans to white out too. So all the fans should be wearing white.
Yeah. I'll say this. The Patriots are foaming at the mouth. They want this. This is their chance. New coach, bunch of new players on this team, quarterback, second season. I didn't mention it earlier because this is in a previous show, but Trayvon Henderson is a dangerous running back, and that edge at the Bills, if Groot and Bosa and Ebenezer are not responsible, it's sealing that edge, and they let a guy like Henderson get outside. It could be a problem, man. So
what about Vrabel calling a fake punt or something? Like, that Vrabel's going to do, like, he's going to pull something out.
You could bet that. You could bet that that's going to happen. So anyway, it's going to be a juicy matchup. I feel like as the week goes on, UI fans, content creators, media, everybody's going to start getting more excited about this game. It should be a good one. Look, the Saints was like, okay, win this game and whatever, move on.
Right. And normally I would say that. I'm normally the guy that's like, just get the win and get out of there. But like when James Cook and Joey Bosa are playing that many snaps against the Saints in week 4, I'm not happy. Khalil Shakir's bringing punts back. No.
Here's something that might make you happy. The Ravens, as we're getting ready to get out here in a minute, the Ravens 1-3. Are the Ravens in big trouble right now?
They're definitely, and it's not just because they're 1-3. I mean, Lamar Jackson's hurt. A bunch of their defensive players are hurt. They have some major issues looking forward just based on health. And now they're behind both the Chiefs and the Bills as far as tiebreakers go. They're looking up at the Steelers in their division, and Pittsburgh have a good record, and they're probably going to be there in the end. Joe Burrow has a chance to come back late in the season. And so, I just think the Ravens are behind the 8 ball right now, and we've seen how their mental mistakes can snowball on them. And I'm certainly not accusing Lamar Jackson of quitting on his team. Things get down. Like, do they have the guy that they can rally around to overcome that? I would never question the same thing about Josh Allen. Like, Josh Allen is going to be in the middle of every freaking hurricane that comes to the Bills, whether it's on offense, defense, or special teams or coaching. I just don't necessarily see that guy on the Ravens. And we've seen it with Derrick Henry. Like, Derrick Henry has eaten a lot of crow for his fumbles late in these games. And I haven't seen Lamar Jackson's come out and said, all of us lost this game, all this other stuff, but I just don't necessarily see them rallying around Derrick Henry in the way I think the Bills would in a similar situation.
I'm not a conspiracy guy. I don't want to be accusatory, but I do wonder, like a lot of people, maybe not as quite, ignorantly and nastily as some fans, but if that game's close as Lamar Jackson's hamstring keeping him out of the game, I don't know that it was. He's a great player. And I'm not going to sit here and say he's not. I'm not going to sit here and say he's soft. I'm not going to sit here and say he's soft, but I feel like it's fair to question some toughness with him at times, or that he doesn't like to get hit a lot. Like that Detroit game, and he was visibly, and he's getting sacked every goddamn time he stepped back there, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know, it's just some body language to him. Yeah. That Bills game, Ed Oliver almost decapitated him, and I will go to my grave saying if he didn't get hit like that by Ed Oliver, I think they'd go for it on 4th down. I think he said he had a cramp. He had to cramp my ass. Ed Oliver brought the lumber on him. Yeah, look, man, the Ravens, so they got the Rams, but it's at home in 2 weeks. They got at Minnesota, at Cleveland in weeks 10, 11, and they played Pittsburgh twice in the last 5 games. And then their last 2 games, by the way, at Green Bay and at Pittsburgh. So Baltimore might be in a fight here down the road if things continue the way it seems like they are right now.
not only have they played a much harder schedule than the Bills to this point, their entire schedule is much harder than the Bills' schedule. The Bills just lucked into the NFC South this year. I know a lot of Ravens fans are complaining about it, whatever. It's just the rotation. But yeah, them having to play the NFC North and the Bills playing the NFC South, I think is a major advantage to the Bills.
100%. Conversely, so the Ravens got their asses kicked this week. They got their asses kicked by the Kansas City Chiefs.
Sure did.
The Kansas City Chiefs look like they're very much back. Are you buying the Chiefs being all the way back right now?
I mean, their offense is starting to click, and that's really what's been slowing them down so far this season. They've been able to make it work. They're getting players back and getting players back healthy.
Yeah.
They're going to get even more folks back from suspension later. There's no reason to think that the Chiefs are like going to fall apart, but there's a reason that teams don't go to 4 straight Super Bowls. And it's because it's really hard to do that on such a consistent basis. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they lose their division. I'll definitely say that. And it wouldn't surprise me if, they struggle still down the line. But I don't know if anyone should be counting out the Chiefs right now.
Yeah, it's funny. We talk about Lamar versus Josh, and it's like Mahomes it's like, what
Still
about me,
good.
And when he plays these great teams, he plays great. And he's 3 Super Bowls. I mean, it's funny sometimes how we just kind of forget and take Patrick Mahomes for granted. And I'm just saying that objectively. And yeah, they put it on. They put it on the Ravens. Rashee Rice will be back soon. So I think they're very much a team that's going to be a contender. The Chargers didn't make me feel any better about them, taking over the AFC West when they go and they lose to the New York Giants. So, there's that as well. Last point real quick, then we're out. The Colts. Do you believe in them more now, even though they lost? I do. They go to the Rams. They lost the game. Couple mistakes. Like that Mitchell play was a big play in the game. And he also had a hold that nullified a touchdown as well. But I kind of was impressed with Danny Jones, and I was impressed with the Colts in a road loss to a good Rams team. That kind of, if anything, that might have solidified them as being at least a team to deal with more than anything else through this point.
Yeah, the Colts and Jags, both like surprising in the AFC South. I'm still kind of waiting for the rest of the NFL to catch up with both of those teams, to be frank. When you get 4 weeks of film on Daniel Jones, eventually someone's going to be able to figure out like how that's working. Same thing with the Jaguars' new offense and their new offensive coordinator, play caller. So it's like I think the shoe is going to drop for both of those teams at some point. Houston, I still think is a mess because of their offensive line. They have more systemic issues, I think, that might keep them down. But that AFC South is wide open right now for everyone except for the Titans, who, as Cam Ward said, are ass.
They're ass.
That's what he said.
Yeah,
I didn't say it.
The Jags are very, I don't know, weird. It's like, I don't care, but they're 3-1. 3-1 is 3-1, right? And
they play each other. So it's like you're playing all these mid teams. Like, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all if, the AFC South winner is like, 10-7 or 11-6, but it could be any of those 3 teams.
Well, look, somebody from the South is going to win the division and get a whole playoff game. So, and they'll probably be underdogs to a Baltimore Ravens or Chiefs or Chargers team. That's coming in on the road. The Bengals 2-2, man. They're going to struggle to keep it together, and they're very lucky they started the season 2-0. Let's just put it that way.
They look like crap on Monday night.
Oh God, that was brutal. Yeah, 100%. All right, folks, let's call this a wrap. Went a little bit long today. Hopefully, I didn't make you miss any meetings or anything like that. Make sure you follow Matt on social, Twitter, Blue Sky at Matt Warren, SB Nation, of course, Buffalo Rumblings, more specifically for all your Buffalo Bills needs. Appreciate you as always, buddy.
Thanks a lot.
All right, guys, be back. Brand new episode coming at you tomorrow.